Alrighty then, it's Leafs Late Night. We're back. It's Roscoe and Biehner. I'm looking for my intro button because I'm a hooligan and didn't open this side of the thing before I started the show, but here we go.
Hi, this is Mike Ross, public address announcer for your Toronto Maple Leafs, and this is the Leafs Late Night Podcast, your post-game destination. And now, your starting lineup. Roscoe, the Fanalist, Southey, Biehner, and Darty Brodeur on the Leafs Late Night Podcast.
We had the Night at the Roxbury going there for a sec. Welcome back, everybody. It's Leafs Late Night. We're here to talk about a lot of league things. Not a ton of Leaf stuff going on, but there's lots of news all around. First and foremost, the cap went up. Oh my God, the cap went up. So a little more than was even predicted. I think they were saying like 87 and a half. And what did we get? 88?
Yeah, it's going up to 88.
Cool. Now I should know this off the top of my head, but that's an increase of how much from this year?
5 point something million.
What was it last year? As I go to the soon to be not available cap friendly, which we'll talk about soon. Oh my God, I should have had this prepared. 2023, 2024 NHL salary cap. 83 and a half. That's what, okay. So that's a pretty big jump. I mean, like we've been talking about with the frozen cap, is you lose like a mid-level player that makes 4.5, 5 million. And well, there's your, if my math is right, what's that, 4.5 million?
Yeah.
So, I mean, for some teams, that's going to eliminate, I mean, a lot of teams, that's just going to eliminate the raises that they've given players already. But for some teams, it really opens up a new job slot, right? And this is important for all these players that have been sitting in the wings. And, you know, like I've said, it just eliminates the job when the team can't afford to bring another person in. So I think we'll see less and less minor guys filling out the bottom six of teams and some more paid salary players in the next couple of years coming in as the cap goes back to where it should be. So interesting to see how that shakes out.
The other thing with the cap going up that a lot of people don't even think about is it raises the cap floor.
Ooh,
like
yeah.
That's one of the things that your average fan doesn't think about. Of course, I'm ridiculous, so I think about it. So the lower limit is now 65 million. So every team has to spend 65 million in their salary cap. As of right now, there is, I want to say 10 teams that are below the floor.
Whoa. What was, did that increase more than the cap increased?
They still increase the same percentage, but there's a lot of contracts expiring and stuff like that. So that factors in. There's two teams who could fit a north of $11 million contract right now without having to move salary, and they would still be under the floor.
That's insane. And who were those two teams? Seattle and Chicago?
Utah and San Jose.
Damn. Okay. I should have said Utah. Okay. Again, we can get it. Do we want to move into that discussion right away?
No. I was just, my mind was going there, and I thought about that the other day, and I wanted to bring it up. It's interesting to think about the floor, because when the cap first came out, you had a lot of teams, like a team like the Blue Jackets, for example. They had an internal cap, which was probably 4 or 5 million above the actual NHL cap floor. So the owner set, hey, this is the most we're going to spend. Like, you're not to go over that.
I believe the Jets publicly, it was, known that they had one too for a while.
Yeah, they were like that for a while unless the GM came to the owner and said, hey, I think we have a really good chance this year. Then they were going to go over their internal cap. But
well, that was one of the weird cases where it's like one guy who owns the team. And the NHL, it's usually like some entertainment group that has purchased the team, or a billionaire that was just kind of like a guy in Canada who that's the most expensive thing he owns and he's paying for it. Yeah. So I get it. But yeah, the cap going up, it's the cap floor going up. It's going to be interesting for these you know, teams that have been hiding salaries for a while, because I think a lot of those old ones that have been kind of passed around for years are starting to expire, and there's not a lot of people on like permanent injured reserve anymore. Like a lot of those people have started to disappear over the last year or two.
Can we talk about that quickly for a minute here? How is it possible that the now dead Arizona Coyotes were so financially terrible when, like, they had what, on average, they had what, 2-3 contracts a year that were quote unquote dead contracts?
Oh, people that hadn't played it, like Blake Wheeler and I forget who else they had at the end there.
Wheeler's still playing, but they had at one point they had Datsuk, they had Weber, they had like
not Wheeler. Who's the other one?
Hossa.
Guy who came from Winnipeg played with Wheeler though. Brian Little. That's who I was thinking of.
Yes. Yeah. But some of those contracts too, they not exactly like the Marner one, but there's contracts that, okay, the cap hit is 5, 6, 7 million, but they're only getting paid $1 million a year. So there was times when, say, the cap floor was 50 million. Sure, the Coyotes might have been 60 million or whatever on their quote unquote cap, but their actual yearly payroll for player salaries would have been well below the floor. And yet they still couldn't financially survive.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the Coyotes, it's not hard to read up on what happened there, but like the Wikipedia entry for bankruptcy and attempts to sell the team starts in 2009. So things never really picked up from like, what is it, a decade after the team came into fruition, like just more. I mean, they never got back on their feet. They were charged with like illegal scouting things, which I finally have somewhat of an understanding of. I was listening to Alan Walsh and Adam Wild's show the other day, and Alan Walsh was saying, because the combine's on right now, if teams test certain players in the combine, they like all the teams run their own private ones, but they can't test people that were also in like the general combine. They have to be separate players, so you can't test people twice. Like you can't get a better look at guys from the overall combine. So I'm assuming it was some sort of violation of these rules that the Coyotes got caught circumventing, and they lost draft picks over it. So that's just like one thing on top of the fact that the team wasn't making money, that like they were getting caught up in all these scandals, and it wasn't good. So, and the Mitchell Miller thing, like, my God, this team couldn't make money if it tried. So
no.
Here we are. We finally get to talk about this team moving to Salt Lake City, Utah. While I pull it up, what first reactions? What did you think of Utah being selected over Houston and what I don't know, some of the other ones that were thrown around?
Well, there was like Houston. There was some rumors potentially like Kansas City. I'm really glad it didn't go back to Atlanta. They've had 2 chances and both of them have failed. I don't think they deserve another one.
Yeah.
To be completely honest, at first I was kind of meh. I wouldn't have minded Houston getting it. Me being as big of a history fan as I am, the city of Houston had the Houston Aeros of the WHA, so like Gordie Howe played there. Like they can support a hockey team. Big market. It would keep Bettman happy because it's another Sunbelt team. But I kind of like the idea of Utah. Part of it almost feels like a Winnipeg South, like kind of smaller market, but I think they're going to have a good turnout with fans. Utah had the Winter Olympics, so it's not like they don't know winter sports. Like there's skiing, it's not another Arizona, so I think it'll work out well.
No, and the thing that went wrong a lot of the time in Arizona stemmed right from the ownership, right? And the difference here, I just want to go over who the owner is here. So Ryan Smith is what we'll call a new billionaire. Since 2020, he's bought the Utah Jazz in 2020 and Real Salt Lake 2022, the Major League Soccer team, and now this. So could you imagine in the course of 4 years buying a NBA team, an MLS team, and an NHL team?
If I had the money, sure.
So here's this guy's 45 years old. He co-founded with his brothers a company called Qualtrics, which is a cloud-based subscription software platform for experience management, which is an extremely confusing and jargony description, but it seems like they just are the software for companies. Like if you have like your own, like if a company needs its own UI for like their internal software, like they build those kinds of things. So I don't know if you're familiar with SAP. They run like the governments. They're based out of Germany, but like if you work with the government, they build all the platforms for their things if you're like applying for stuff within that. Anyway, bringing it all back, these guys launched in 2017 after a bunch of rounds of investment, and 1 year later sold to SAP for $8 billion US. So this dude at like, okay, so it started founded 22 years ago, technically, by him and his brothers. And he would have been, what, like 23 at the time? And they sold it for $8 billion. And then he just started buying sports teams. So.
Like, it's absolutely insane.
Yeah, I mean, this guy's got a wild run in the last couple of years. It seems like he's super interested in sports. And when you've sold your company and you kind of just have money to play with at 45, and if sports is the thing you're drawn to, it feels like it's somebody who at least cares about growing those things and isn't just buying it as a tax write-off. Like if you wanted to hide your money somewhere and, you know, just write something off, there's a lot easier ways to do that than buying 3 major sports teams.
Yeah.
So it seems like he cares about bringing sports to Utah. Now, how much do you know about the state of Utah, Justin?
Next to nothing.
So I saw the Book of Mormon, but that's a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek jab at the Mormon religion itself. But I did watch a thing the other day on Utah and Salt Lake City, and learn some fun facts. So we're going to learn, because we got a new team here and people are going to be watching it. Leafs are going to play them, you know, twice a year and probably lose both of the games. You know, we got to know something about the state other than the Mormons are there. So something about them that is interesting is Mormons are not allowed to drink, or at least some of them interpret this, coffee or tea, hot drinks, they call them. So Starbucks and Dunkin' don't do super well in the state of Utah. But what does do well is something called dirty soda. You want to take a stab at what dirty soda is?
Iced coffee?
So they're actually not even allowed to drink cold tea or coffee. They interpret hot beverages to be like, whether it was supposed to be coffee or tea, and drinking those things cold is kind of a cheat. So there's this place called Swig. It's a drive-through chain that you will find all over the place, the same way that you find Tim Hortons all over the place here. And they serve dirty soda, which is, you get a big like plastic cup like you get from like 7-Eleven, and it's a bunch of ice with some sort of pop with a flavored syrup and then cream. So like, here, let me pull up a picture.
That is disgusting.
So, you know, Delight that makes those like coffee creamers?
Yeah.
They make dirty soda creamers. So they have like a Dr. Pepper flavored one for making dirty soda. Yeah. Here. Let me pull this up quick. I didn't know this was a thing till the other day. So what are dirty sodas? Here. Look at this thing. Swig. This is the company. So these bright colored, like, I'm assuming this is some sort of blue raspberry or like Mountain Dew type thing, and there's like a layer of cream on top. I don't know, it's very like old style, like you'd get from a like the pharmacy soda fountain. But yeah,
what is it with the States and not liking proper coffee?
I don't know, man. When I was in Boston, I had a Dunkin' Donuts iced coffee, and I like thought it was a smoothie, or not a smoothie, like a milkshake, and I had to throw it out. It was so sweet, it was almost undrinkable.
Like the first time I had to stay down there for training, I stopped by McDonald's in the morning for a coffee, because I figured, you know what, I've had coffee at McDonald's up here, there's no Tim Hortons, it's going to be something that I can actually, you know, I should know what I'm going to be getting. I said, yep, I'll have a large coffee, 1 milk, 1 sugar. and they literally gave me a coffee with 1 sugar in it and a carton of milk.
Ugh.
Like you would get with a kid's meal, because they couldn't grasp the fact that I actually wanted milk in my coffee
Instead of cream?
Yeah.
That's insane.
Like, yeah.
Look at this Coffee Mate dirty soda.
That's disgusting.
Made with Dr. Pepper. Yeah, so you can find recipes and stuff online, but this is one of the things super cool about that state. Also, if you need to know where you are when you're there, if you go to a game, getting around, they name their streets like other major cities where they're numbered. Like, so you'll see 100 Street, 300, 500. But those are all measurements of how far away you are from the Mormon temple.
Jesus, you're kidding.
I'm not. It's 0, and everything out from it is increments of distance each way. It's pretty wild.
Oh my God.
And again, this is just facts. I'm not trying to like rag on them in any way. If you didn't know, the city was not a thing until the Mormons moved there. So they were pushed out of everywhere else, persecuted, and they were like, let's go build Zion. So after their founder, Joseph Smith, died, they took his map of what like Zion, like heaven on earth was supposed to look like, and they built Salt Lake City in that plan. So it has always and will always be like a Mormon built city. Like it was built on that foundation. Like obviously now people have moved there, and there's tech sectors and sports teams and other things. People have come in from elsewhere, but like at its core, like that's what it was built on, and you can really see it in like right down to how the streets are named. And apparently, if you're in high school, if you are in public school, they like give you a period off of like off-campus learning, which means though you are in a public school, they are giving you a period to go what is normally just across the street or even next door to the high school, a Mormon seminary, to do your religious teaching and then come back. So they like work every school into being a Mormon school, even though it's a public school. It's like their little circumvention, my word of the day, of church and state laws. It's a pretty fun place.
Yikes.
Yeah. Anyway, they got a sports team now, and I hope it's going to be the Utah Yeti. Back to the actual hockey team. We saw the list of names come out. Utah hockey team names. And Utah Yeti is still on it. So the 6 finalists are the Mammoth, the Blizzard, the Hockey Club, the Outlaws, the Venom, and the Yeti.
So I like the Yeti as long as they don't add an S to it. Because that would be stupid.
I mean, it just says Utah Yeti. So
yeah, I kind of like Mammoth because I think you could get some killer jerseys and logos with that. But maybe it's just my increasing love for the game of soccer, but I kind of don't mind Utah Hockey Club.
Like, I get what you mean. It's very European and soccer and yada yada, but without one of those already being in the NHL, it's kind of tough to like have. But this that's kind of what I'm thinking of, because what is one of the main things that the NHL always gets criticized of? It's the same cookie cutter, like they don't even hire new coaches. You can only hire a coach after he's been fired type thing. Like it's all the same. Utah Hockey Club might be kind of fun. Yeah, it's tough. It
almost sounds kind of religious, so it would fit in with the Mormon thing. Like,
what's the symbol you're getting behind? Like, what do you associate with? Because I think that's a lot of the thing with sports is unless the team has like 200 years of tradition being known as the whatever soccer club, football club, hockey club, whatever. Like, I don't know. It's tough. I like the fact that they're leaning into the snow thing, like the Blizzard and Mammoth and Yeti, just because they're so close to the Colorado Avalanche that's going to be cool for, marketing any rivalry there. Like, oh, the snowstorm's coming in. Urgh.
Yeah.
But I think Yeti is my number one. Mammoth would be cool too. I haven't really considered that as another option, but I don't like Venom or Outlaws. I don't understand the association there. I think it was just a matter of like, these are sport team names that aren't used.
Yeah, Venom I don't really get. Outlaws I could kind of get because it's like more of a Western state, right? Like the Western U.S. thing from back in the day. Everyone always wants to glorify cowboys and outlaws and everything, right?
Well, I guess the Mormons were outlawed and ran out to Salt Lake City, so that kind of works. It could go. Jumping off that, though, to other jersey and logo things, it was revealed that the Anaheim Ducks and the LA Kings will be going back to the 90s, trashing their horrible logos of their current decade and further, and going back to the days when they were cool. So what do you think of this?
So I don't mind it.
You don't mind it? Bringing the Mighty Ducks back.
When the Ducks first brought out the new logo, I kind of liked it because I was a little tired of the Disney logo. As like it is iconic, but at the same time it was getting a little tired. So it was due for a change, and I think now the nostalgia of it all, like everybody our age, right, grew up with that logo. So if you're a diehard Ducks fan, you want that logo back. The fact that they're going to give it a little modern twinge apparently is promising.
What colors do you think they're going to go with? That's the big question. Because I really don't want them to go colors. I don't want them to go orange.
It's going to have orange in it. They seem to have really, I haven't read anything or seen anything, but I can pretty much guarantee you it's going to have orange with it. I think they've leaned pretty hard into like the Orange County type thing, right? Like,
I guess, but like Ducks are multicolored. I think you can go back to that blue and purple, or like, I don't know. I know they're going to make it revamped. They said they're just putting a modern twist on the old logo, but I feel like this is an opportunity to really bring some new colors in instead of just like, I don't know, the orange. I really don't like the orange. It's Philly's thing and it's the Oilers thing. Like, don't be another orange team.
That is something as well, because the like teal purple type thing that they had going on, like that was unique.
Yeah.
And the only thing close we have with regards to the teal type colors is now Seattle, but before Seattle there was really nothing else. Well, I guess San Jose, but
yeah, I mean, I think bringing the purple back in would be cool, especially if LA is not going to use it. What do you think LA's colors are going to be?
I think they're probably going to stick with the black, like the black and white. Because that was more of a 90s thing too, right? When Gretzky was there. But I heard they're kind of just revamping the logo a little bit, like changing the crown that's inside the logo. Because if you look at it, it's got the old school, like very, very old school looking, really, crown at the bottom of the logo in the old one.
Yeah, here, let me just pull up the we can do this as a presentation. Okay.
Yeah, that old school, like the purple one there. That's what they've got in the current logo, and the logo that was around when Gretzky was there, right?
Yeah, I don't see them going back to like the Lakers colors, though it would be sick. Some blue would be cool. But yeah, it seems they've gone really black, white, and silver lately, and they got the chrome helmets and everything. It would just, So what they're thinking, like the one that says Kings through the middle here, or like.
So that one there that says 88 to 98,
yeah,
that was like the Gretzky era, the prime, the Chevy logo. A lot of people call it, right? Logo. It almost looks like the Chevy emblem. So from what I've kind of heard, they're going a little modern, like a little twist on that.
Okay. I don't know. The crown would be cool to bring back in. I guess it's there. It's just small.
Yeah. Like I didn't. From the sounds of it, they weren't going to be doing anything too crazy. Just minor tweaks to it, right? And if you look at the logo they've been using the last little while, like when they were winning their cups, it looks eerily similar to the Stanley Cup Finals patches that the NHL has been using the last couple of years. So part of me almost wonders if they want to try to start getting away from that kind of thing.
Yeah, could be. Either way, we're not going to see these this coming season. It'll be the next season because they're switching over jersey suppliers, I guess. They weren't allowed to change anything just quite yet. So.
Yeah, Fanatics is going to have a hard enough time actually supplying jerseys that are correct with current logos and names and everything, let alone anything changed.
And they aren't see-through and tear when somebody takes a puck off their chest or something.
Yeah. The Calgary Flames jerseys, the C is going to be like opening facing upwards like it's a horseshoe or something.
Oh, God.
Toronto Maple Leafs will be like an oak leaf.
Okay, real quick. Predictions on the Florida-Edmonton series. Obviously, would have liked to do this before it started, but here we are. It's the third period. It's 2-1 Panthers right now. They're already up 1-0 in the series. What do you think this is going to finish like?
See, the last 2 years I've been kind of disappointed because selfishly last year and this year there hasn't been a single team, like I haven't wanted either team to win. So at this point I'm almost cheering more for players than I am for teams. I wouldn't mind a couple of the Oilers winning. Like I was a big Rink fan when he was in New Jersey. He's local. Like I went to elementary school where he grew up. So like that would be really cool if he won a cup, and he's never won one. But at the same time, I don't want Perry to win one. And it would be really funny for this to be, what would it be, his fourth straight Stanley Cup final where Perry lost?
Yeah, that's also like, got to be a record if he pulls that off.
That would be amazing. But I guess if I had to pick, I would probably pick Edmonton for the couple of players that are on the team. But I really do think Florida's probably going to win, as much as I hate to say it.
I saw that McDonald's Canada tweeted that if the Oilers bring the cup home, they'll rename a McDonald's in Edmonton McDavid's.
Oh my God. Okay, that's amazing. If they actually did that, that would be awesome.
Yeah. I can't verify if that's like a real tweet, but it was a yellow check mark and it said McDonald's Canada, so I think it's real. I have to agree, like, as much as I dislike Florida, they seem to just be on a run. And after last year, they kind of said, okay, minor tweaks when we do it again, and this time we win. And they seem to just kind of be unstoppable. The Oilers, I think there's more of a story there for whether they win or lose, because there's so much riding on, Draisaitl sticking around or not. And, they're kind of in a similar situation with the Leafs where they've tried a bunch of things around McDavid and Dry, and it's like, if this time doesn't work, like, there's going to be a lot of questions, and maybe he doesn't stay, and what do they do next time, and how much time do we have left in McDavid's prime, and yada 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 yada. So I think there's a lot more riding on it for them. They've also got a lot of, they've had a crazy year in terms of starting out dead last, going through Jack Campbell for like 5 games and realizing that was a horrible signing and it wasn't going to work. Kind of struggling through Stuart Skinner for a while, and then he finds his groove. Is their defense okay? Like they've been a giant question mark, and I think for other teams, it's nice to see that you don't need to be perfect everywhere. You just need to figure it out when it matters. I like when teams like that win, because if Florida wins, everybody's going to try to copy the makeup of the Florida Panthers. Like you're going to see 5 years of GMs trying to rebuild the Panthers as they are right now. It's the same thing we saw with Boston. Like I feel like it's like a team thing where they're just going to say, oh, that's what worked, and we all have to do that.
Not to bring up the same thing over and over and over again, but like the fact that you can get players to agree to take less a year because they don't pay any income tax does make a big difference.
Well, if it keeps shaking out that, if it's 5 years in a row now that either Tampa or Florida have been the team in the finals from the East. So if that keeps happening, I think some GMs are going to start to say, hey, this is kind of bullshit. Like it's clearly giving them an advantage because they've gone to the finals every year because, they've just been able to attract those better players and contracts.
Yeah.
But what do you do about it, right? oh, get rid of the hard cap and let the Leafs just say, okay, but what if we add $4 million to the check? Like, honestly, that's what makes the difference is, yes, you will make less money here. What if we just pay you more? Oh, it's less taxes down here, so we're going to pay you less. Like, let those things dictate the contracts.
Yeah, that's where something like a luxury tax would come into play, because then it would be more dependent on the owners. And, you know, is the owner serious about putting a winning team on the ice? Because if they are, paying the luxury tax really shouldn't matter.
Yeah, it's like Vegas's owner said he would spend $120 million if he could.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving over to Leafs stuff. For the first time ever, we have an associate coach. Have you even... I didn't even know this was a thing until they hired him, and someone pointed out there was associate and not assistant, and they had to explain what that is. So, did you know this was a thing? I didn't. Obviously, you did.
Basically, they basically would just have a little more power, right? Like, assistant, like an associate would almost be like a co-manager type thing. I don't. It's really hard to describe.
Well, I think an assistant coach would deal more with specific things. Like, you have one person that deals with like power play and penalty kill. One person that's like an offensive assistant coach, or a defensive assistant coach, whatever it is. And then I think an associate coach is like somebody that's like an assistant to the coach. Like, they're coming up with things together, and like you answer to both of them, but one is just slightly above the other. Like, it's kind of like a 1A, 1B, but like it seems. So Lane Lambert, the former head coach of the Islanders, has been hired as our associate coach. I should have started with that. It seems like he's going to be kind of like an assistant to Berube. Like, you know, they get to share their expertise with each other and work together to, you know, evaluate the team from a head coaching perspective, instead of, you know, somebody that's paying attention to smaller things. Like, I think it's just like a big picture versus individual task kind of thing.
Yeah. There's for some reason I can't really think of the best way to describe it right now, but that's basically it. You have a little more responsibility, a little more power, so to say, and then you still have your assistant coaches as well. Like, it's not like it's just going to be those two. There's going to be more more coaches as well. So,
yeah. So, I think in changing out the head coach here and getting rid of, well, not renewing the contract of Dean Chenoweth, who I finally know how to pronounce. I thought it was Chenoweth. Oops. I mean, it's spelled anyway, whatever. So having this much of a change is always tough, but I think having more leadership come in that way, like having a head coach and associate coach step in to drive home like what the message of this new staff is going to be, I think will help. This is also a team that clearly needed something to change, and this is a big change. They won't feel like it's just a minor adjustment, and the players can kind of continue doing what they were doing and dictate that to the new coach. Like, I think this is a power move from management to be like, you know, there's a lot of new guys that you're not going to be able to just walk in and boss around. Like, Berube and Lambert are two head coaches that are established. Like, you can't just tell them how it's going to be.
Well, and like, we've had too long of stretches and too many penalty kills that were terrible, too many power plays that were terrible. Like, it needed a bigger shakeup. Yeah. So I'm kind of glad they didn't just, okay, Keefe's out, Berube's in, and everybody else is the same. Like, no, we need a bigger shakeup. We need to do it.
So the difference also is, like, Keefe was a first-time NHL head coach, whereas now you've got not one but two established coaches that have seen different things and have adjusted to different situations and have had numbers of different rosters under them. I'm just looking at Lambert's record here. So he was assistant for Nashville for 3 years, Capitals for 4, and then associate coach with the Islanders until then he was the head coach. So he was under Barry Trotz every single time.
Yeah, Barry Trotz forever.
Yeah, so he's a Barry Trotz guy. I mean, everybody in this league is either a Barry Trotz guy or a what's his nuts Babcock guy, or like, you know, there's 5 guys that spawned all these other coaches, so it's one or the other.
But I don't really mind that, because what is something that Trotz's teams have always been known for? Good defensive play and good goaltending.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they play a very structured game, and if you talk to a lot of goalie experts, they'll say, like, yes, you have to be a good goalie, but like, goalies don't exist in a vacuum. Like, LA made Cam Talbot look really good the last couple of years. This year he started to fall off, but certain teams have really good success with goaltenders for whatever reason, and then other teams have no success with them. Like, clearly Ottawa is one of the teams that just, they can't do anything with goalies for some reason. Used to be Philly. They started to turn it around. Who knows if that's going to continue, but
Ottawa is like the goalie factory for everybody else. There's some teams that just keep them within and keep pumping them out, like Nashville and the Rangers. But then Ottawa's like, this guy's no good. You guys can have him. All-star. Yeah, this guy's no good either. You guys can have him. All-star. It's like, stop trading goalies. Just hold on to them for a sec.
Yeah.
Or get a better defensive core around them, for God's sakes. I think that this team's going to benefit from having, like you said, like a defensive-minded coach alongside Berube. It's just, what scares me is, apart from, I think Lambert was there when the Caps won, but apart from that, all of his teams, like the Islanders, the Capitals, and the Predators, it's like, yeah, they're like the Leafs. They got knocked out in the first round a lot for all of those years.
Well, Islanders made it to, 2 or 3 conference finals in a row, and they just got knocked out by Tampa every time. Nashville made it to the finals. Like, there has been history of runs there.
Yeah, I don't know. The defensive teams haven't been the ones that have gone over the edge. You know, but it will definitely help with how this team started building. Yeah, it's fair.
Like, Edmonton's being praised. Like, yes, they're the high-scoring Oilers. That's what everybody thinks of them. But they played a ridiculously sound defensive game these playoffs.
Yeah.
They just, right now, nobody can beat Bobrovsky. I don't know what friggin' Russian voodoo he's got going on, but...
Yeah. I think it's going to come down to, whether Marner's sticking around or not, because that's a huge number. There's other moves that have to be done, but the combination of that and a new coach and a new associate coach, I think we're going to see a real different team. I know we said that last year, but Brad barely got his hands on it. It already looked pretty different. So I think this year is going to be interesting, to say the least. To say the Leafs. On Marner, obviously came out. Darren Ferris, the absolute fucking villain that he is, likes to leak to the media that, maybe we'll just walk to free agency. We don't have to waive the no trade. We don't have to re-sign. And he's right, but it's a negotiating tactic. It's just a fucking annoying negotiating tactic.
Well, and realistically, if it came down to it, and if that's what they wanted to do, like, Berube's a hardball coach. If he would have no issue with saying, okay, if that's what you want to do, sure, you'll still play Marner, but you're on the fourth line, you're not on the power play, you're not on the penalty kill, you're going to get 4 minutes a game, and good luck getting $10, $11, $12 million a year in free agency when you're not playing.
Yeah, that would be absolutely savage.
Like, there's different ways you can go about it, so I really don't think they would go that far down the road. Because Berube would be the type of coach I could see that would have no problems doing that.
No, and here's the thing. I know it's probably not going to happen, but if it did happen where Marner walked to free agency and that was it, we didn't get anything in return for him, the fact that the cap hit is as high as it is, it almost makes it like more palatable than if he was on like a really good contract. Like the money that it frees up going into free agency doesn't make me that angry. You know what I mean? Like, if it was somebody that we were trying to negotiate with who was only making like $2 or $3 million and that came off and we never got to sign them, it's like, whatever. But like worst case scenario, I'm just saying like I wouldn't be as pissed. Like the return's not going to be great if they do trade him. Like it's
see, I think you're wrong there. I can't see it not being a good return. Like, okay, yeah, everybody knows there's tension there. The team kind of wants to change. The player kind of wants to change, but he's still a 100-point player.
I know
he's still an incredible talent. It's not like we're trading someone who can't play the game anymore and has this albatross of a contract.
Well, and they're saying like we're not going to trade him just for the sake of, you know, banging our chest and saying we did something. But in that case, like the trade that you do get might not be that much right now. Like it could be futures, it could be picks and futures, and that's kind of it. So like what I'm saying is it might come down to the money that it frees up come free agency anyway.
And that's I see what you're saying, but to me that's still, even if it is futures, that's still better than getting nothing at all.
Oh, for sure it is. I'm just saying, like, if it were the case that he goes, I'm not mad about having just 11 million or 12 to play with in free agency when other teams might not have that. Like if they're looking at signing certain guys like Sean Walker on day one of free agency, like, you know, having the freedom to go after guys like that. Obviously the ones that are locked up on teams and they're trying to trade are more valuable than guys that are in free agency. But I don't know. I'm just saying, like, worst case.
I don't want to turn into like a Dave Nonis thing where you have cap space, you go and you sign Mike Komisarek to this massive contract that he doesn't deserve. Like, there's no one player out there right now in the free agency this year that would warrant the contract Marner has. So I think that's where you can get yourself into a little bit of a bind because you have all this money. Everybody knows you have it and knows you're desperate, so they might just ask for the whole farm if they are going to talk to you at all.
Look, the Leafs are against the wall no matter what here. Like, I don't see them getting the greatest for it. Like, this is going to be a kind of barely win or lose scenario. Like, I'm just worried. It's not going to be fun. And it's not going to be fun if we start training camp with him still here and we just play this out for months and months. Like, I just want this to be over. There's
definitely been examples in recent history of teams in this situation winning the trade, though. Like, look at Duchesne when he was in Colorado. Everybody knew that marriage had to end. And Sakic just said, no, I'm not going to trade him for the sake of trading him, and waited and waited and waited and got a good return.
Yeah, but you don't have a ton of time to wait here, and people know that. And
have a whole season.
Right? Even until the trade deadline.
Even still, you still have technically the whole season, because you could even trade his rights at free agency for 10 cents on the dollar, but it'd still be something.
But I mean, exactly. Even if we're talking that, it was like when we were talking getting a 7th for Hyman's rights. It's like, what's the point? Like,
still, I still would have done it at that point.
Yeah, it's not going to be a fun off season, but I think it's going to be interesting and a lot to pay attention to instead of just the same old, which is something to look forward to. You know, we don't just feel like we're running it back. Like, I feel like it's crazy. I don't want to just repeat what everybody else is saying, but like a year ago we were in the same spot. Dubas wanted to do this and got fired for it, and now here we are with like a wasted year. I don't know. So I'm glad that something's happening. It's just it's going to be like a Band-Aid. It's going to hurt coming off.
It might.
It'll heal, though.
Really, at this point, yes, he's a great player. If he stays on the team, I'm not going to be pissed off. But if he gets traded, I'm not going to be pissed off. Like, it is what it is. I'm numb.
Yeah. Okay, so last thing I want to talk about here. I mentioned briefly at the beginning of the show as I pulled up the site, but Cap Friendly is now ticking away. It's about 3 weeks until we all lose access to it. The Washington Capitals have purchased Cap Friendly. My first reaction was, what, did they just want it for the domain name? Like, there was an easier way to go about that. I think it is kind of funny that of all teams to buy it, the Capitals did. Like they could just keep it internally and call it cap friendly.
It is a little interesting. I guess it is to be a little bit expected that some team was going to buy it.
I don't get it personally. Like, I would sooner contact one of these places and try to hire the person who built it than take down a site. Like, the way that I look at it is, if you are going to have this fucking hard cap that is impossible for people to navigate, and there's a tool online that allows fans of your insane sport, these insane people that are willing to put up with all of this math and all of these contracts just to be a fan of hockey, you're going to take that tool away from them? Like, this is the part that frustrates me. Like, this game needs to be accessible, and if the league is not going to put out their own tool to navigate these things properly, and like someone has to build it themselves to the point where a team comes in and goes, hey, that's really cool, we want that. Like, what are you doing?
Well, there was even jokes on SiriusXM on NHL Network Radio, like, that a lot of teams are a little bit pissed off. They didn't know this was an option. Like, they didn't know the site was for sale. They would have swooped in and bought it.
I don't get this. I know they've hired people from these sites before, but like, that makes sense to me. Buying a website, this, like, when else in any instance do you see this happen? Like,
yeah, you don't.
Like, I'm trying to even think of a comparable. This is like if, I don't know. I guess the closest comparable I can think of is the fact that Amazon owns IMDb. But they didn't take it offline for people. They left it up so people could look up all of the directory of movies and things that they are going to have. It's not just their things. Like, I don't get why this happened. Like, what they said they're going to implement a bunch of like the stats that are private to them into this to use for tracking. Like this just seems like buying the farm to get a bale of hay, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then just like everyone came to visit the farm, and you know, that's what was growing the business of people being interested in hay. And you're like, hey, I want that bale of hay. Let's fucking tear the farm down to get that one, so people have to come. So we know more about hay than other people. Okay, but now no one cares about hay because you took down the barn. Like, you see what I'm saying? Am I crazy? Like, I don't understand why they thought this was a good idea.
So, if you have money, you might want to invest in Puckpedia right now.
Can
it's
you?
Like I have no idea. It's basically a cap-friendly, like, look-alike. They do very good work. It's a little different to navigate than cap friendly was, but it's gonna be the go-to going forward. I can pretty much guarantee.
It's gonna have to be, or you know, someone's gonna step up. And now knowing that if you build a better version of cap friendly, some team might buy it from you, I think there's an incentive to build something now. Like, people are just gonna keep doing this. But whether there's one available to the public is going to be another story, which is really lame, because I don't want the NHL to go the route of the KHL where like you can't find what any player's making. Because I think if Gary Bettman had his way, that's how the NHL would be, is that these contracts wouldn't be public knowledge and available to everybody to see and part of the talking points and everything. Like, people wouldn't discuss this if it were up to him. But when you have a hard cap, that kind of becomes half of the game is money management. So I don't know what you want, buddy. You can't have it both ways.
Yeah, like, I get it. There's a lot of negative PR because, you know, you should be talking about some of the greatest players in the games, like Matthews' pursuit of 70 or this or that, and all you're talking about is, okay, yeah, he's going for 70 goals, but for 13 million, he hasn't won a cup. And like, I can see it in that sense. So he probably doesn't want all this to be public knowledge, but we're too far down that hole.
Yeah.
Like, contracts have been public knowledge for years.
Yeah, and again, if you're going to make part of the game that these teams have to manage it, like, everyone's going to be interested in how their team is being managed, and that's all we talk about, you know? Like, this whole discussion about Marnerrrr wouldn't be the same if there wasn't a hard cap. It would just be, fuck it, we'll figure it out. Like, we got the money. It doesn't matter. This one's probably not worth this, but we'll just move him down the lineup and bring somebody else in.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It's an annoying sport to be a fan of, but hopefully with all the publicity it's getting. Actually, there was one other thing, the Amazon announcement that they were following a bunch of players around, like things like that. I'm hoping get some new eyes on this because I don't know. I always feel weird when I'm the only one that watches hockey in the room. You know, it happens too often.
You need to change your circle of people.
Well, it's just anywhere I go, I find, but I might just be in Ottawa. So Amazon got the Formula One Drive to Survive producers to come in and film some of the players this year. It only started after the All-Star break, about a month after, so it's only kind of the tail end of the season. But the names are definitely interesting. So we got Connor McDavid, Matthew Tkachuk, Jacob Trouba, Leon Draisaitl, David Pastrnak, Jeremy Swayman, Quinn Hughes, Jack Eichel, William Nylander, Philip Forsberg, and Gabriel Landeskog of note. So a bunch of people that made the playoffs, which is awesome, and then Gabe Landeskog, which will be a look into what it's like to rehab an NHL injury and, you know, watch from the sidelines and question whether you're going to come back or not. Like that's going to be a crazy story there.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see, and I think a lot of these documentaries have actually been really, really good for the sports. Like the Full Swing one on the golf, I have just absolutely loved. It's really cool to see a lot of the behind the scenes stuff in that and what players deal with. It'll be interesting to see if they do another one this year with Scheffler being arrested.
They have to.
And like even the Wrexham one, like I've been a soccer fan since my wife and I got together, but never really knew anything about Wrexham, and then stumbled across it, and I love the team now. I'm fully invested in following them as well. So this kind of thing is only good for the sport, and it's about time hockey started getting a little more serious about that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, look how well the Danbury Trashers documentary did. I mean, of course, that was also a mafia story, but like it was a hockey documentary, and everybody was talking about that team. Like, all you have to do is make a compelling story and shoot it properly and put it on a platform, and it's PR, baby. Like, also what I'm excited.
Silly things like, sorry for interrupting.
No,
silly things like when the Leafs were in the Winter Classic in 2014 at the Big House, like. Everybody laughs at Randy Carlyle not knowing how to use a damn toaster. Like things like that are actually good for the game because it gets people talking about the game, and it's not all some of the negative publicity that we're getting with the London fiasco and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, and what I was going to say is I'm interested to see, instead of following the Leafs like we saw in the All or Nothing, just following William Nylander and seeing what it's like to be. I mean, we'll see how much they let out, but like what it's like to be on the team from the player's perspective instead of what the team is like as a whole. Like that's something that we don't normally get to see, especially from this team. I mean, obviously we'll see that from everybody, but you know, we care more about the Leafs. So, and McDavid's really started to emerge as pretty funny and personable now that, you know, the team isn't abysmal and they've made it to the finals. It's like success makes him happy or something. So that'll be cool to see.
Imagine that.
Yeah, wild, right?
I want to do a quick shout out because I don't think we've touched on it since it happened, to Minnesota winning the Walter Cup in the PWHL.
Yeah, where's my clappy thing?
I think for all accounts, it was a pretty fantastic first season for the league. And despite some complaints of not having logos or jerseys or like team specific ones, they're all just city specific. I do think they did very well. And they had their draft this year, their amateur draft, or draft tonight, sorry. And Sarah Fillier expectedly went first overall to New York. So Canadian national team player. She's a very, very, very good young player.
Nice. Yeah, I think it did really well this year. They sold out a lot of massive arenas. They traveled around to other major cities and did well. The game that I went to here in Ottawa was packed, and people had all kinds of the merch and everything. I think it's going to do well moving forward. Definitely bringing in logos this coming season is going to be huge. It's going to be a longer season as well. I think they're adding like 15 more games or so. Also very on brand for Toronto that they picked their own opponent and lost, and then that team won the cup. It's like the most Toronto thing ever. Good for you guys, girls. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's only going to grow from here. We kind of talked about it before we hopped on. I think there's a bit of some weirdness going on as far as the ownership goes. Like we saw Minnesota remove their GM right after they won and not say why, which is very suspicious. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a little odd. Yeah, we touched on it that the Walter family owns all the teams. Like you don't have individual owners and then, stemming out from there. So with regards to the league expanding and adding more cities, it'll be interesting to see how that goes. If the Walter family would have to sell all or most of the teams that are currently in to other owners to go from there. But yeah, on one hand, it's really weird because we haven't seen anything like that. But then on the other hand, it's a very good way to guarantee that you have financial stability for all the franchises for the first couple of years.
Yeah, definitely to get things off the ground. I think it's just going to start getting weird as, teams start to ask if they can fire their coach, If things don't go well in like 2 years, it's like, hey, we'd like to change coaches. How do we go about doing that? Who's in charge? Who makes that call? Can this coach go work for another team after? Like, what's the drill there? So I think that's all going to be cool to see develop, see a league just kind of make its way through those issues, like solve things as they come up. I think they made a lot of good progress this year in terms of setting new rules that the NHL doesn't have, like what we saw with, the points after you're eliminated from the season and picking your opponent in the playoffs.
Jailbreak. I love the jailbreak one.
Yeah, the jailbreak was cool. I saw one of those happen. Yeah, I think there's a couple things that they've done well, so I'm looking forward to see how they handle everything else that comes up, because having no rules and setting them with fresh eyes seems to be an advantage right now versus all these leagues that have had rule books for 120 years or so.
Another shout out non-hockey related to Manchester United on their FA Cup win. For anyone who cares.
Manchester United
beat the frauds and the cheats, Man City, in the FA Cup final. So that was nice and unexpected.
We beat the frauds. I don't know.
Go home with a trophy, and some other teams that were chirping us didn't. So that's always good.
You know who else went home with a trophy? Or should I say a medal? Victory medal is you, sir. Show that thing off before we get out of here.
Yeah, so for people who don't know, I play a lot of ball hockey. I do play ice hockey as well, but I'm not nearly as good on ice as I am at ball. And I play in the Gretzky Street Hockey Tournament every year. Walter Gretzky started a tournament in Brantford, obviously hometown of Wayne. And it was every year to raise money for the Lung Association, and it's continued on even after his passing. Anybody who's a Kevin Smith fan, Jay and Silent Bob, Kevin Smith developed a really good relationship with Walter and actually came to a handful of the tournaments.
Oh, no way.
At one point, the tournament was actually in the Guinness Book of World Records for most teams in a street hockey tournament. And Kevin was there, so there's a division called Vashel, the View Askew Hockey League. And that whole division, all the teams are based off of Kevin Smith stuff.
Oh,
so you have
God.
the Mall Rats, you have the Monroeville Zombies, like just everything. So I'm on the Zombies. I've got the jersey on right now. And best we've ever finished was third. We just could never get past the semifinal. And this year we did it. So we won. Woo! There's my gold championship medal. And yeah, it was a blast. We actually kind of cleaned up 9-1, 11-3, 7-2, 7-1, 4-1, and 9-3 were the scores of all our games when undefeated. So
what does that make your GAA?
I'm just below 2.
Oof. Draft this man.
My buddy Moose, who's been on any team I've ever put into any tournament or league ever, pulled a Steve Smith and scored on me in the championship game. So thankfully we had a good lead at that point. But
oh boy. Well, good for you. Congrats, my friend, and congrats to the team. And with that, I think we out of here.
Yes, I am also way too old to play 5 games in one day.
That was all in one day? I thought it was like over a weekend.
The tournament's over the weekend, but that league finishes up by the Saturday night because, like, there's whole teams that come up from the States.
Holy.
Because of Kevin Smith, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this specific league, like the one team, almost the entire team's from New York State. People come up from all over. So it's really cool seeing these guys from all over, and it's competitive, but it's a lot more friendly than some of the other divisions. Like, you don't get the fighting and the stupidness. It's a ball hockey tournament, for Christ's sakes. Like,
no, that's fine. I wish there was something like that here. I would definitely jump in, not on the ice because I'm not good at skating, but I like playing hockey.
Yeah, so we had the one game Friday night, and then we played the other 5 on Saturday. So, needless to say, I could barely walk on Sunday.
I've probably mentioned this story before, but I was at a West 49 here in Ottawa, and was talking with the guy who was helping me out, and he asked, oh, what do you do? And I said, I work in movies. He goes, oh, my parents are costume designers, and they actually made Kevin Smith's hockey jerseys for a long time. Like, they were the people that he went to with his designs, and they made them.
Jim Edelston?
Probably.
Yeah.
I don't Canadian?
Know. Yep. Actually, I couldn't. I want to say he's from out east, but I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, I know Jim used to come to the tournament all the time. This jersey was designed by him, assuming we're talking about the same person. But
is he an RCMP veteran?
I have no idea.
I don't know.
I've only ever talked ball hockey with him. Jim
Edelston.
Shout out, Jim, if you ever hear this. Miss you,
buddy.
Shout
out. Yeah, no, I can't find him, but probably. Could be his kid lives out here in Ottawa. Anyway, have a good night, everybody. Toodles. Hope you had fun. We'll see you next time.
Ciao.
Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Leafs Late Night, your night of post-game podcast. Available after every game on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Audible, and more.